Hi guys, welcome to another video. If you guys didn't know, I am a pilot. Today we are going to be talking about my journey to becoming a pilot and my journey in the future. A lot of you guys have been recommending this YouTube video particularly, and I've been a little hesitant about it because I wanted to wait a little further till I'm more into my aviation career. Just for a brief summary, I am a private pilot. I am about halfway through my instrument training right now. And my story is a little emotional for me just because I went through a lot trying to attain this goal, trying to attain these licenses. So I am excited to share it with you guys, and I think now is a good time because I am still quite at the beginning of my journey, but I can at least share with you guys what got me interested in aviation and what pushed me to become a pilot, because a lot of people need that inspiration. So I'm happy to share my story with you guys finally. Today we're at my apartment building pool, and I wanted to bring you guys in a new environment. My whole thing is going out and exploring your environment, so I have taken you guys to a new environment. So to start, we'll get started back in high school. So the way I got started in getting interested in aviation is when I was in middle school. I think I heard about this STEM program, and at the time I was really interested in universe. I was really interested in learning about space and planets and calculating everything about planets. So it's kind of stemmed from my interest in outer space. So I decided to join this magnet program called STEM, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And it's basically just an addition onto your high school classes. It just puts you through a couple more extra classes. It's really fast paced, but it's really hard, but it's good for you. To tell you guys the truth, when I found out I got into the STEM program, at first I thought it was a really hard program to get into. They were saying maybe the whole class had 100 people, and they were only accepting 100 people out of the entire county for that school year. So I was like, I'll just sign up. There's no way I'll get in. So that's my mindset of going into it. Turns out I got in, and I cried the entire week before high school because at the time, to be considered a STEMie is to be considered a nerd. Like, to be considered the most obnoxious nerd you could possibly be. And I thought that me going into high school, me joining STEM, was going to halt my popularity. In high school, of course, all I cared about was popularity and probably boys. I've changed a lot since then. So I cried the whole week I got into STEM. I think the first year I was in high school, I told everybody I was gonna quit STEM. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna quit this. This is so dumb. And then I didn't, because I just like playing things out until it gets to the point it's unbearable. And it never really got that unbearable. So I never really had a reason to quit. So I just kind of stayed in it. And my second year is where I got the opportunity to learn aeronautics, and it basically gave me the ground school for flight school. And at the time I was not thinking about planes at all, so I take this whole course, and the only thing they had was ground simulators, which was actually really funny. So we would do flight simulators, hook them up every single time. It was quite annoying, and it never really got to the point of me learning the actual ground knowledge for being a pilot. And I never got it through my brain that we were studying to be pilots in that class. Then I think after, I never really tried in that class, if I'm being honest. When I took that whole class, I thought it was boring. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be flying planes one day. I don't need this class, basically. And it was an easy A class. He would give us the answers to the test for the most part. Thank you to my aeronautics teacher. He was also very pretty. So when I did that class, my interest still was not peaked in aviation. I was still in the stage of like not caring about my future, because all I cared, I was a sophomore in high school, so I never really thought about my future or anything like that. I thought I was gonna stay in Maryland. By the way, this all sets place in Maryland. I lived in Maryland most of my life. I was born in China, and I lived there for 2 years, and then I moved here. I moved to Maryland when I was adopted, and then I lived in Maryland for the rest of my 16 years, but I'm 19 now. The problem with Maryland is that it was very boring. there's not much to do up there, and that's fine for other people. It's more of an older community up there, and with me, I started realizing that I wanted more with my life. I wanted to go out and explore. I've already seen everything there was around me. I was tired of the cold. So aviation school, or the ground school in high school, wasn't very great for piquing my interest. I do remember when I was in freshman year, I guess I had a clue of what I was gonna do because I got a letter from my future self when I graduated, and it said, "Hannah, I hope you still want to become a pilot." And I was like, well, I guess that answers my question. But no, seriously, to get interested in it, there was a couple things that happened to me to get me pushing to be a pilot. And the first thing is that I had personal pool, and since there was nothing to do in Maryland, all I would do was lay on the diving board and just look at the clouds. There wasn't much else to do but just look at the clouds. So I would just look at the clouds for hours and hours a day, no matter what. Most of the time I was kind of home alone, so there wouldn't be much to do when I was home alone. So I would just go stare at the clouds when I wasn't hanging out with my friends or something. When I got to the stage of senior year and like really considering what I was gonna do, the question always popped up in my brain: what would make me the happiest? What would, like, when I'm old, what could I not get tired of? What could I see myself doing forever and make me still happy? Because that's the number one thing that is important in my life, is if I'm happy. I don't really, of course I care about money and I care about flying and whatnot, but you know, as long as I'm happy in the future, that's all I really cared about. And whenever I would ask myself that question in high school, I would always think about my dream job, and I never knew really what it was until I started thinking about aviation school. And a certain, I guess, implanted memory my imagination went to was me sitting in a cockpit at night looking over the most beautiful city about to land. That would just be my job, just listening to music, looking over these vast landscapes. And I remember having that vivid image in my brain for the longest time of me just flying at night for some reason, looking over at city. And that memory still comes up every day, but that when I was back in Maryland, I never had anybody around me into aviation. I knew maybe one pilot personally, but I knew nobody who was becoming a pilot. I knew nobody in aviation. Nobody in my family knew anyone in aviation that I could really talk to about it. So I was quite on my own with this. And my family, of course, I have 6 siblings, and we're a huge family, and none of them really went to the aviation course. I was very hesitant about going into aviation when I had nobody. Thinking about that that imagination of me in a plane, because it didn't feel like a dream or anything. It felt like I was in that cockpit and I was just daydreaming, but it felt real. It felt like something I was meant to do. And I guess you could say I kind of got the bug after that, because it just took that one memory, that one meditation moment where I was like, what would I do in my future that would make me happy? What will make me happy? And that memory would always come out no matter what. And so that's where the bug was kind of implanted, because I just had that slight thought. I was like, that would be so cool if that could happen. And of course, in high school, I really wasn't thinking too much about my future career. I was more focused on school, popularity, boys, all the stereotypical things. Just to say, before I came to Texas, I was such a basic bitch. I was a very stereotypical person. I was extremely basic. I would try and fit in the most I could, because in middle school I was the weird kid, per se. I was just extremely weird. And then in high school I wanted to become prettier, whatever, so I just wanted to fit in at all means cost, and I wanted to look the most basic as I could. So I made my whole personality basic just to fit in with everyone. And then I started to realize that the basicness of high school, or even the people around me, it was to a point that I had lived there my entire life. I was tired of all the gossiping. I was tired of all the pettiness that comes with high school popularity. Not to say I'm popular or anything, but I think that whole world kind of urged me to look for more, because everyone around me was just doing the same things. They were just staying in the same place, going on vacation once a year, and then working the rest of the year off, maybe going to a bar or two on the weekends and just hanging out in cars because it was too cold to go outside most of the time. And I had it with that life, and I was like, when I imagine myself being happy, I imagine myself having an adventure almost every week. I imagine myself doing fun things. I don't want my life to be the stationary house mom, because that was also another argument, not from my family, but from a lot of people that I looked to for advice. They said either go to college and then get your degree and then get a job and whatever. And then the other one was just marry a rich man and then have babies and live your life as a housewife, which I never wanted to do. I never wanted to sit in one place for my whole life, work a 9-to-5 job. I would know exactly what would happen if I went to college and then chose some job that makes me a lot of money, but I'm not truly happy in. That was a lot of the thought process going into becoming a pilot, because I was like, if I don't take this risk, I never will. And there was so much to it, and this is just the beginning, but that kind of got me interested. Is I was 17 at the time when I actually made the real decision of looking into being a pilot, and I was like, I don't want to waste my life just sitting somewhere, never seeing the world, because at this point I was really obsessed with the world. Being in STEM for some reason made me extremely curious about the outside world and what different countries have and cultures, and just seeing the beauty of the world. That's something like that was aching out of me. Like, I felt like I just needed to go off and explore, and I really wanted to just explore the world. I wanted to be free. I was pretty free in Maryland. There was just nothing to do in Maryland that wasn't 3 hours away. So I had a lot of trouble because I lived on a cow farm, but I lived right next to Annapolis too. So I had that city life, but it wasn't exactly the city life that I wanted. It was all just like, you really have to pay to be in Maryland, because Maryland's extremely expensive. But if you're considering this, I want you to look at your life. Ask yourself first, am I happy in this life? Could I see myself doing the same routine that I'm doing today every single day for the next 50 some years? I mean, obviously there might be ups and downs if you don't choose it, but, and this is going into any field. If you can say that you can be happy for the rest of your life in this position, then stay where you are. But if you have any doubt in the entire world that you might not be happy and you want to go pursue something else, go pursue it. I know that sounds a bit naive, but at least take some classes for it. Make the steps to put in this other career, because you could like it a lot better. It could give you a better sense of life. So for me, when I got started, it was just me being fed up with where I was at. I wanted a better life for myself. I wanted to be someone like more cool, someone with experience. I felt like it was a spiritual thing for me following aviation, because it was something so out of the blue for me. It was exactly the bug. The bug is when it's a thing in aviation where people say how they got their passion in aviation, and some people feel like they've been bit by a radioactive spider, and that spider made them so sick in love with aviation. That's how they got into aviation, and that's exactly what happened for me. I got the slight seedling of pilot life in my brain, and I started realizing, wow, I could actually do this. I think I could become a pilot, and the lifestyle, no matter what I have to sacrifice, is worth it, because I want that crazy life. The pilot lifestyle is not for you if you want a family or homestead to stay for a long time. The pilot life is for you if you want to go travel, have some adventures, live your life on the edge a little bit. When I finally got that seed in my brain, I was like, okay, I have to do some research. It was like the tiniest little seed. I was like, I'll just do some research, see if it's viable, whatever. I look at the price tag on flight training, and I instantly say no. And I was like, there's no way I'm going into aviation if it's that much money. No way. So I applied to about 5 or 7 in-state schools, because I thought at this point I was gonna stay in-state. There was no reason for me to move out of state for any reason at all. And I was looking at if you go to college and do flight school on the side, how much that was. A lot more money, by the way, $300,000 to finish with a degree and all your training flights. I straight up got accepted into all 7 of the schools. I think the only one I didn't get accepted into was University of Maryland. And most of them were aviation colleges. Some of them were out of state, but still on the East Coast. So I had that for me. I was like, oh, I have all of these backups now, and now I'm gonna look into the alternatives of aviation. And one of them was a fast flight school, because I knew that if I did the Part 61 flight school where you make your own schedule, you pay your own way, I knew I wouldn't be able to get it done, because then I would have to go to college full time. I wouldn't have enough money to spend on flights and all that jazz. So I was looking into accelerated flight schools that get all your licenses done in a year or two, and I found one, but they only had enough locations on the West Coast and the, I guess, mid coast in Texas more. But I end up just applying to it just to see if I can get in, because I was like, this looks like a pretty good school. I don't think I would ever move across the country, but let's just apply for it just to keep my options open. And if I don't get in, I still have all these colleges. If I get in, then I might go. It was kind of one of those things where it was kind of an imagination thing where I was like, there's no way I could even get into the school. That's something that I kept thinking, and I was like, if I go to college, would I really be happy studying something I don't even want to study? And that was kind of my thought process in it, is like, I don't know if I want to go to college, waste a bunch of money and time, and stay somewhere for 4 more years and never go anywhere and maybe get a high-paying job. So that's why my brain went to flight school. So I applied to the school and I get in. And I have not told my parents at all that I've gotten into the school. So I'm super scared to tell them I got into the school. I was at a standstill with myself because I was like, do I even want to go to the school? Like, this is really expensive. I would have to work a lot for it, and it's all the way across the country. Should I take this chance? I talked to my parents about it, and I'm like, hey, I got into the school. It's going to be a lot of money, but I will cover most of it as long as you pay my apartment and stuff. And they did not like the idea at all. When I look back at it, my parents' reaction to it was reasonable. And I went into it thinking my parents would support me through this and all give me the green light to go through with it, because I, at this point, really wanted to become a pilot, and I really wanted to go to the school because it seemed really cool. It seemed like a pathway I could do for the rest of my life, and I'm a hard worker, and I knew I could get these licenses if I wanted to. And so I told them the whole story, and they did not have the greatest reaction to it just because of how expensive it was and how I had to move across the country. And I think that's a normal parent reaction. Of course, I'm not going to go too in depth with that because that's more my personal life, and that might have to be saved for a separate video. And it took months and months of convincing, and I was going through this, I just knew I would go to Texas. I don't know how I knew. I really think that me getting into aviation was part of my destiny, because it was just such a random interest of mine at the time, and I would have never, if I look back 3 years from now, I would have never imagined myself moving across the country to become a pilot. I was still an extremely basic person. I followed anybody, basically. I was a follower. I was a sheep. I would do anything for the attention of people or whatever. And then I got tired of that life, and I realized that I could make myself happy. I don't need to rely on other people. My interest in aviation really was growing at the time. The bug had gotten me. The bug had seeped its little venom in all of my blood, because I was all about aviation. That's all I could talk about, which was super weird because nobody around me liked aviation either. And that's why I think it was such a spiritual kind of decision to make, because everything in the world was telling me to become a pilot. And everything in my blood knew I was going to become a pilot. I knew that I would go to Texas somehow. I knew I would get my license, and I knew I would become a pilot. I didn't know I was going to start YouTube. That was a surprise. There's been a lot of surprises in it, but I knew I was going to become a pilot because of that vision I had of me in the cockpit at night flying over the city. I never really knew how I would get there. I never really imagined myself going through the steps of doing it. And when I went through the steps of doing it, I was like, wow, I'm really doing this. This is insane. And everybody around me thought I was insane because nobody else was becoming pilots and moving across the country to become a pilot. Everybody else was going to college and doing whatever. I was absolutely a little terrified to do this, but for some reason I had 100% assurance in my brain, in my faith. I guess you could call it faith, but I felt it was my destiny to go to Texas and become a pilot. I don't know why Texas, I don't know why the universe does anything, but that was my pathway, and I knew it. I knew that was what I was gonna do for the longest time. So I end up starting packing. I finish high school. I'm telling everybody I'm becoming a pilot, and this was my yapping phase where I would talk about aviation 24/7. I've gotten a lot better at it, but I would tell anybody who met me that I was a pilot or that I was going to become a pilot in Maryland and Texas when I first left Maryland and when I first got there. So that was it was already becoming my personality. I decide that I'm going, and my best friend Jocelyn is there for me the whole way around. We decide to leave on Halloween weekend because my school started in November, and I save up a ton of money. Right after high school, I got a full-time job, and I worked till I think end of March till November, just straight working 6-7 days a week, trying to earn money so I can focus on my studies when I get to Texas. It took so much convincing with everybody because it was such a crazy out there idea, and I don't know how I even got the confidence to move across the country. But let me just say, in high school I had an ego, and I think anybody who knows me in high school can absolutely say that I had the biggest ego in the world. And of course it's not always good to have an ego, but in my certain case I think it helped me out extraordinarily, because in high school I thought I was the shit. I thought I was the hottest girl there could be. I thought I was so cool, and I just had so much confidence in myself, and I just thought I could do anything I damn well pleased to put my mind to. And it's a lot with everybody. If they put their mind to it and figure out a way, they can be whatever they want. And I want you guys to really understand that, is that this whole channel is not trying to convince you to become a pilot. I'm trying to help people follow their dreams, and I hope that this is what this video is doing, because if I didn't follow my dreams and come here to Texas, I wouldn't have any of these experiences. I wouldn't know anything about the aviation world. You know, I really did find my happiness in aviation, and that might change in the future, which is totally fine, but I did really find my happiness for now, and it's taken me so much fight to get to the part of where I'm at, but we'll continue with the story. So I work my ass off. I save about 5-7 grand before I leave, pack up my car, and then me and my friend Jocelyn drive down to Texas in 3 days. This story is amazing. So it's Halloween weekend, which if you guys don't know that's when Halloween falls on a weekend, and you celebrate that entire weekend with all these different costumes. We didn't really want to leave on Halloween weekend, but it was the only time I could go and leave. So we ended up going to Georgia State University and spending the night at my friend's dorm, because we didn't want to spend money on hotels, and we have friends that just left for college, so we could stay at their dorms at the time. So we go to their dorms, spend the night at Georgia State University, have fun, dress up. Our friends introduced us to their friends, and then the next day we go to LSU. I think it's Louisiana State University to meet my other friend. He lets us spend the night for another night. It was extremely cramped having 2 extra people in a dorm that's only meant for 2 people, but we worked it out, dressed up again, had lots of fun. And then Halloween night was when we came to Texas, and we did not go out. We were extremely tired from the road trip. It was a 3-day road trip, and we end up coming to Texas. And then I start my school and everything. I think I might have to make a second video explaining my process through flight school and how I got through flight school on my own, being 18 years old. I think I want to focus more on that on a second video, because there's a lot to that flight school story. For the first 2 months, I made absolutely no friends. I was so focused on school because that was everything to me personally, and I wouldn't even let myself have relationships at that point. I had a few offers for relationships, but I was just so focused on school that I couldn't even focus on being in that, and it got to a really unhealthy point in my life where all I was thinking about is aviation, and I turned into this aviation person, which there's nothing wrong with it, but I just literally could not talk about anything other than aviation because I was studying it 24/7. My friends all around me that I made in flight school were all pilots, and they had to study too because we were under strict deadlines. So everybody around me was pilots, and I ended up making Texas State University friends here who were not pilots, and it was really hard at first for me to talk about anything other than aviation for the first 5 months I got here because that's all I would do. So I ended up just putting everything into aviation, and it paid off because I got my license. It took so much blood, sweat, and tears to get it, and I definitely want to make another video on me going through aviation and my thoughts and feelings on it, but I wanted to make this as an inspiration guide because I know a lot of people who aren't pilots or people who want to become pilots watch my channel, and they want to know how I got into it. So those were my inspirations. It was a hefty journey because when I had to leave my entire family and all of my friends, and there was nothing wrong with my family or friends. I loved them dearly. It was just my need to explore the world. It was my need to get out and make a name for myself. I had always, something deep down inside of me always told me, one, you're gonna be a pilot, and two, you're gonna be great one day. You were gonna be greatness one day. And I still have that feeling of I might be great one day. I hope you guys have that feeling too. But if you, that's kind of how I knew. It just felt it so deep down in my soul in senior year, and I felt like this was a divine plan in the beginning because there's so much leading up to it, and it all went to the decision of me not going to college and me pursuing flight school because that was the only way in my brain that I knew I was going to go. Now, the way I went about it, I do not recommend for anybody else because the way I went about it is kind of stupid. I'm glad I did it because it worked out kind of well for me. But please, if you go my way, do your research, have your private already. That is all I'm going to say until my next video. But there are so many other ways to become pilots. I really just wanted to make this video aspiration for the beforehand, my upcoming, I guess, into becoming a pilot. Becoming a pilot has changed me significantly. I feel like I'm a lot more mature now. I am not as obsessed with aviation as I used to, like talking about it 24/7. It just rounded me out as a person overall. It got me thinking more curiously. It got me better with directions. It has done so much for me and opened up my world so much. So I would never take back anything that I did. Looking back at it, I would never do anything else different than how I have because I still have that feeling of destiny in my brain. I'm not even almost done yet. I still have 2 more licenses to acquire before I even have the chance to become a professional pilot. I still feel it deep down in my heart. I am taking a bit of a break from it, and I am at the stage of needing a break from aviation. And because I work at an FBO right now, my life is pretty much centered around aviation, and it's been such a big part of my life. And now that I have my private license and can just sit back, not have to worry about truck rides, and I'm still flying, of course. I fly at least 2 or 3 times a month, but I'm definitely at the standstill where, one, I don't have enough money to keep taking these flights consistently to get my license, and two, just because I've been having a little bit of depression about it, and I think that's normal. I think this needs to be talked about a lot more, but when you become a pilot, you're not always happy. It is going to be hard. You get depressed. It's hard affording flights too. And I don't think enough pilots on YouTube say this, is that it's totally okay to be not happy about where you're at. I'm not the happiest about where I am, but I know that it's going to work out for me in the future because I have that deep feeling of destiny, I guess. And I hope you guys have that feeling too, because when I look of my life. I'm 19 right now. If I get all my training done within the year, I'll be 20. And then by 21, I get a job in some airline, or I get a job at some private company and have my dream job. Then I have that job for the rest of my life. And I retire when I'm 60 something, 65. And I am just thinking, if I take just this time to grow up more, because obviously I've grown up a lot since high school and becoming a pilot, but I still have so much growing to do, and I'm still so young. But I'm just happy making these videos for you guys, taking a little bit of a break from aviation. Obviously I still work at an FBO, but at least I'm not stressing myself out about check rides anymore. I hope that helps you guys with some inspiration. So I'm gonna head out now. As always, I have a Patreon and a Venmo. Patreon is nice because you guys get to talk to me a lot more. I post videos that I don't post on YouTube, and you guys get to see a lot of extra clips of my life. And then my PayPal and Venmo, of course, if you want to donate, anything helps, even $1 if you guys want me to keep making these videos and cool things. I did have a flight prepared for you today, and I was gonna vlog the whole thing, but it got canceled sadly because of maintenance. So I am sorry about that. I really wish I had a flying vlog for you guys, but you guys have not been watching those flying vlogs, have you? So we'll see how this does, and we'll see what that entails for the future, because you guys have not been eating up the flying vlogs, which surprised me a lot. You guys should be eating them up a lot more, watching them constantly. I'm just kidding. Watch whatever you think is comfortable. But yeah, I'm gonna go. Have a good day. Bye.